I tried doing hypnotherapy for 3 months. I was hypnotized once a week for 3 months. And I gotta say, this was a really interesting experience.
Oh, hi, Mark.
What's up, Freccero fam? Welcome back to my channel. Would like to experience everything that life has to offer. This is gonna be an interesting video talking about hypnotherapy, hypnosis, what it's like to be hypnotized. It was quite the 3 months. I'm gonna talk about how I got into hypnosis, how I got into hypnotherapy, the effects of it, what is it actually like, is it like we see in the movies or not, and a lot more. Now let's back up a bit. Starting off with how I heard about hypnosis or got into it, kind of funny, was actually from Pokemon. Yes, Pokemon. What happened is I remember getting a Game Boy Pocket, which was still a legendary moment when it comes to gaming because as a little kid, I feel like you're used to having to plug in your, Super Nintendo or Nintendo 64 into the TV and take up the TV of the family room. But with a Game Boy, you could play it on your own. It kind of felt like you had some control over that gaming platform, right? That gaming device. And Pokemon Red was a huge staple. I still play Pokemon Red to this day, and I am still learning new things actually about Pokemon Red. And when it comes to Pokemon, as most people know, there are different types. Pikachu, being the most notorious Pokemon, is electric, and then you have Charmander, which is fire, but then you have psychic Pokemon. And this is actually how I first heard about hypnosis, because in case you didn't know, hypnosis is a Pokemon attack that puts the other Pokemon to sleep. And this was also around the time the computers and the internet really started to become a lot more prevalent. So I remember just Googling hypnosis, how to do hypnosis, how to be hypnotized, how to hypnotize somebody else. And I remember in 3rd grade printing out like hypnosis scripts and trying to hypnotize my classmates. I was always very fascinated with the idea of hypnosis and the power of the mind and all that kind of stuff. And for me, even when I was younger, I always approached hypnosis or psychology or anything with a very kind of scientific mind. I'm like, I don't care about woo or fluff. Like I remember one time I was talking to somebody and I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm interested in hypnosis. And they're like, oh, you believe in hypnosis? Do you also believe in ghosts? And I'm like, wait. Okay, those are two very different things. I remember even one researcher called hypnosis the H word, that there's a lot of science, there's a lot of evidence, there's a lot of incredibly documented studies to show the power of hypnosis in numerous different ways, but people sometimes look at it as this woo-woo, like mystical thing. It is just psychology. That's all it is. And as I got older, I continued to still be big into psychology, whether it was psychology or neurolinguistic programming or learning about things like meta learning, like from Tim Ferriss about how to learn something very, very fast. I'm also a huge fan of Darren Brown, for example, who's a magician who combines like mentalism, magic, psychology, hypnotism, and showmanship into his performances. He's a phenomenal performer. And in general, I've always been just really fascinated by psychology and all the different ways it's used, whether it's in a magic performance, whether it's for some type of hypnotism, in a lot more cases. And with all that being said, it all leads up to this year, because what happened is I was in the Valley here in Los Angeles. It's an area that's a bit like above proper LA, if I'd say it like that. And there's a place called the Hypnosis Motivational Institute, or HMI. Very, very notorious hypnotherapy school, right? Very, very rigorous in terms of the training, the protocols, all that kind of stuff, where you can actually be certified as a hypnotherapist. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I haven't thought about hypnosis in years. It's kind of cool that there's an institute for it right here in LA. And I remember going on their site, just out of curiosity, and they actually had a volunteer program. They had a program, it's a win-win basically, where you, the person, can sign up for free hypnotherapy. It is 100% free, like actually free, and it's a win-win because what happens is the people looking to graduate, like a lot of other professions, actually have to put in client hours. Hypnotherapists have to get a certain amount of hours in order to graduate, so it's a win-win. The hypnotherapist gets a client that they have to work with in terms of getting their hours and graduating, but for you, it is free to sign up. It is free hypnotherapy. It's a great win-win. And I was like, you know what? Why not? I mean, it's free. Like it's literally free, so why not try it? And when I initially signed up, they did ask me, why are you signing up? Because in case you didn't know, there have been a lot of documented studies, research, and evidence about how powerful hypnosis can be. I think the biggest thing most people think about when it comes to hypnotherapy and hypnosis is quitting smoking. For me, I don't smoke, but I know a lot of people who've said, yeah, I tried everything. I did one session, never smoked again. I've seen a lot of posts like that on Reddit. I've seen it on YouTube comments. I've heard people in person talk about it, that they were trying to lose weight and they were craving chocolate or candy or sweets. They did one hypnosis session, boom, went away, right? So hypnosis can be a very powerful tool that's been documented by a lot of studies and research. Even the app Reveri, pioneered by Dr. David Spiegel, has gotten a lot of attention, especially with people like Andrew Huberman promoting it in his podcast of how powerful of a tool it can be. And being honest, I wasn't really sure. I'm like, okay, I don't smoke, I don't want to lose weight, but I remember thinking like, okay, I'm working on a lot of projects and I'm a bit anxious on if this one's going to work or this one's going to work. Like I'm trying to make new music. I'm hitting some, if I call that like writer's block when it comes to making music. Like I'm just trying to figure out a lot of things. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just say that I'm trying to figure some stuff out. I kind of want to think clear, think better, think more focused. My mind's a bit scatterbrained with all this kind of stuff going on. I just want to be able to think clearer, think more precisely about the exact next steps I want to do when it comes to accomplishing my goals. So I got a hypnotherapist and we did sessions once a week. It was once a week for about an hour. Now, here's what it was like. Here's the big thing I think a lot of people want to know, and that is, what is it like to be hypnotized? Being honest, the best way I can word it is you know when you're about to fall asleep and you are kind of drifting in and out, like you're not fully asleep, you're not fully 100% awake, but you're kind of like drifting in and out. That sweet spot is what it feels like to be hypnotized, and I might even say it like this, to be in a hypnotic trance. You're not fully 100% awake, but it's not like you're out of control of your body. It's not like you're having an out-of-body experience. It's not like you are almost asleep or you're just completely just gone. If an emergency happened, for example, like let's say there was a fire or something went down and I was in a hypnotic trance, I'd instantly snap out of it. And I want to say that because it's not like it's this odd, mystical, woo-woo state that you'll do anything anybody asks you to do. No. And there are different approaches. There's a lot of science and methodology when it comes to hypnosis, whether it's Milton H. Erickson or other styles of hypnotherapy. And some, they're just hypnotizing you and they're just talking. That's it, right? You could even go on YouTube and search like hypnosis scripts for losing weight or hypnosis video for, I don't know, social anxiety or whatever the case is. But then there are other types of hypnosis, which is what I did, where you're actually talking to them. And it's kind of interesting because during the sessions, she would kind of do like a thing to kind of relax me, like you're walking down a staircase. Each step you're getting more and more relaxed, you're falling deeper into trance, et cetera, et cetera. And then she would have me explore almost different parts of my mind. Like usually there'll be a visualization to it where she's like, okay, you're on a beach, you see a house, walk up to the house, what's inside? And I'm like, I see a bull. So I'd actually talk back and forth to her and she goes, okay, good. Like what colors? And she'd try to almost use what seemed like to me some symbolism to take the thoughts that are on my mind about my problems, the things I want to work on, and it almost seemed like what my mind was creating was representative of that problem. Like, for example, I remember one point we were talking about some issue I was having. It was, okay, I want you to take that problem and create an image out of it. And I don't know why, at least for me, it was a bundled, jumbled thing of blue cords. And I was like, oh, it's like a tangled up, jumbled blue cord. She goes, okay, what I want you to start doing is untying that cord or kind of like unraveling it. And I want you to talk about how you're feeling. And near the end of it, the entire blue cord was unraveled and I felt significantly better about my problem. And it was really interesting going to this like unique trance and being in this state of a lot of visualizing and I think even some symbolism, kind of like exploring all these kind of parts of your mind, if I'd even word it like that. I know it sounds a bit woo-woo, a bit weird, and it was really intriguing of me talking to her while she's talking to me. We're having like a full-blown conversation, yet I'm still feeling a bit out of it and still feeling like I said, that almost halfway point between when you're awake and when you go to sleep. Super, super intriguing. And after doing this, how did I feel? Like, what are the benefits? I will say now, I'm just talking purely anecdotally, as in my own personal experience. Of course, I always say this, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a licensed hypnotherapist. Always make sure to consult with a licensed professional if you're having any mental or physical issues. Now, when it came to the benefits though, a lot of really interesting things. First off, coming out of it, I remember the first few times I felt a bit out of it, like a bit spacey. It was almost like as if I was napping, like, you know, one of those deep naps when you're having like the nap and you wake up and you're like, whoa, what planet am I on? After the first few weeks, I got used to it. So the good thing is it's almost like my mind kind of adapted to it because when you come out of it, you feel super relaxed. Like it's almost like that feeling of coming out of like a really nice sauna or a really nice hot bath or hot shower, just coming out of, let's say, a really nice massage. I think is another good way to word it, where you come out and you're just super relaxed, super calm. I remember, especially the first kind of month I was doing this, that when I filmed videos after I did hypnosis, I was talking significantly slower than when I would do a video normally, like I'm doing now, I'd say, when I didn't do hypnosis beforehand. So it was really interesting, one, right initially out of it, feeling way more relaxed, way more calm. Secondly, did it help me with my problems? 100% yes. I will say there was something about it that when you're in that state and you're kind of tackling that problem, you're kind of going in and out, but you kind of know what's going on, but kind of don't. It really helped me target these kind of parts of my mind. I might even use the word my subconscious mind, that really helps me tackle and solve these problems without looking at it consciously. It was almost like I was able to view the problem and work on it without thinking too analytical or too conscious, like, oh, this is the problem. I need to do X, Y, and Z to solve it. No, it's kind of almost more ambiguous or a bit more abstract of the way it kind of went about solving my problems during the sessions, but then afterwards, I definitely reaped the benefits. And that was really awesome, gotta say. The feeling, one, of immediately afterwards feeling relaxed, calm, super comfortable, like, again, like I just got a nice massage or came out of a nice sauna. But then in addition, the fact that after every session, when working on all these different things, I felt that my problems, the things I was trying to work on, like I said, thinking clearer, or like say I had some slight anxiety about a project, like, oh, is this gonna work? Or let's say I had a creative block about music. It was kind of cool that all those kind of got alleviated. And almost every week, my hypnotherapist would say, okay, so what do you want to work on this week? Do you want to work on something that we worked on last week? Do you want to try something new? Do you just want me to put you into trance and we actually make it up as we go, which is what we did a couple times, which was really cool. It is a very interesting experience, I got to say, when it comes to hypnosis. And I might even use this word, a very powerful one at that, in terms of actually solve the problems and the issues that I had. And with that being said, I want to talk about hypnotherapy versus regular or traditional therapy. One thing I have to stress again, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a licensed doctor, none of that. So I have to stress that point. This is purely my experience. I found, again, I'm just talking personally. I have to stress that. I'm not a licensed anything. I found hypnotherapy to be more powerful and effective than regular therapy. Now, I will say this. I feel like, if I had to guess, doing both is probably the best of both worlds. Different people think differently, right? Different therapists may be a better fit or not a good fit for you. Maybe when it comes to hypnotherapists, same thing where, I've heard for a lot of people when it comes to hypnotherapy or traditional therapy, that you almost want to look at it like a relationship. Like, do I match with this person? Are they a good fit for my needs? Some therapists are great, but maybe not for certain people, right? Same thing with hypnotherapy. So really tough to say overall, but for me, I noticed a way bigger benefit from hypnotherapy than therapy. And I think the main reason why, again, I'm just talking for myself personally, is that one, I felt like I was challenged more. I felt like that when I talk about my problems and be like, oh, like I'm seeing I'm seeing this cord that's jumbled, like I said earlier as one example. And she goes, okay, I want you to untie it or like unravel it. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of tough. She goes, doesn't matter. I want you to do it. And then she started even using more techniques, being like, oh, well, it's kind of tough to. Like my mind's almost resisting actually me untangling the cord. And then she was like, okay, well, let's do this and this. And so like every problem that I had that almost seemed like it got represented in some symbolic way or I visualized or whatever, we tackle it head on. And so I kind of like that. I feel like that when I've done therapy before, although I talk about it, my therapist does challenge me about certain points when we're talking about whatever. I felt like with hypnotherapy, I was, one, challenged more aggressively. I think a good analogy when it comes to things like mental health and therapy is physical health or having a personal trainer. And some people, when it comes to having a personal trainer, if let's say that trainer's like, oh, one more set, and they're screaming in your face, and they're like, one more set, you got this, that might turn them off. They may be like, okay, you know what, this is too much. I don't want to be screamed at. I'm just trying to work out. I don't want to be David Goggins all out. That does turn a lot of people off when it comes to physical fitness. For me, though, I'm the opposite. When a trainer pushes me hard, it actually gets me excited because I'm like, hey, I'm pushing myself. I'm challenging myself more. I think that's the way my mind really works. And that translates, in my opinion, as well to hypnotherapy and, of course, therapy, where I feel like with hypnotherapy, my mind was challenged more and pushed harder. So I like that. I found compared to therapy, which does do that too, but at least the approach that happened within hypnotherapy, I found I got challenged more. The second thing is problem solving. I'd say those are the two big ones, is that kind of on the other side of that coin of being challenged more is that I found my problems got alleviated quicker. Rather than in therapy where I feel like I more talked about the problems, and I would get challenged, don't get me wrong, in therapy with my therapist, I do get challenged. But I find sometimes it's like, okay, I'm getting challenged, but I want to solve the problem. I don't just want to talk about it more and more and more. I want to alleviate the problem or start working on fixing it, right? Or that kind of thing. And yes, there are different approaches I know that my therapist has taken and everything. So again, I'm not trying to knock therapy. I'm trying to say that hypnotherapy is the greatest thing ever. Again, I'm purely just talking about my own experience, is that I noticed in hypnotherapy, not only would we challenge the problem more, but we'd work on directly solving it using different techniques within hypnosis when I was in trance and everything. We'd really work on solving these problems. And that's what I kind of liked, that a lot of the hypnosis, besides like being put into trance and coming out of trance, was really tackling the problem head on. We would figure out exactly what the problem was or how my mind represented it. Then we'd figure out a solution and then maybe another solution. Or if something wasn't working, we tried to recreate it in a different way or find another approach. I still was communicating with my hypnotherapist, but it's not like I was consciously thinking about my exact thoughts at that moment and targeting them and being like, okay, let me make a to-do list of how to solve this issue. It's very abstract in the way I viewed challenge and then solve the given needs. And again, I really do have to stress this point. I'm just talking about my own personal experience. Like I almost even thought about not talking about this in this video because of course, I don't want to discourage anybody from doing therapy or hypnotherapy, right? I think if I had to give my best advice, again, as someone who's unlicensed, so I want to stress that, I'd say both, right? If you already have a therapist, maybe you have one through your health insurance or whatever, maybe sign up to do hypnotherapy. It's free, right? It's literally free. Can't beat free, right? So you could always try it. And if you don't like it, no big deal. Overall, I gotta say, hypnotherapy was unbelievable. I did not expect it to have that much of an effect on me. Most people can be hypnotized. I know a lot of people get very like intense about that, being like, oh, I could never be hypnotized. It's not the kind of thing that you're gonna be put in a state that you're gonna do anything. I think a lot of people get defensive even about hypnosis or being hypnotized. It is just like you're in a slight trance. Like I said, you're kind of drifting in and out between being awake and being asleep. It's that kind of like odd limbo that's what you're in. And the hypnotherapist is working with you to alleviate your problems, challenge your problems, and a lot more. Gotta say, in general, hypnotherapy was unbelievable.